If your podcast involves having guests for your episodes, having an application form can make your life easier. So in this video, I'm going to go over when it's a good idea and when it can probably wait for your show. My name is Misbah Haque, by the way. I'm the author of Pod Mahal and host of the Habit Chest podcast. You can grab my book on Amazon and you can book a free podcast strategy call with me in the description below. So let's start with why you would need a guest application form in the first place. One of the phases that most people are not prepared for is when your show gets some traction and now you begin to get flooded with pitches, and not just like low quality pitches, but I'm talking people who might be industry leaders, some of them you really respect and admire, but maybe they're not a great fit for your show, right? You do have to say no a lot depending on what your brand really stands for. And so saying no can be uncomfortable. And so what the application form can do is create the expectation that, hey, I might be booked out for the quarter. I might be booked out with guests for the year. I'll reach out when and if it's a good fit. So you can create language that sets the expectations that they can fill out the form if they want to put their name in the hat, but it doesn't automatically guarantee that they're going to come on the show. And if you treat it like a process, people will respect that part of the process, versus if it's kind of like they ask you on an Instagram post comment and like you feel like you got to say yes or no there, you got to say yes or no in the DMs, versus if somebody asks you in a way that's on the spot, whether it's in a public post comment, it's in the DMs, it's in person. It gives you a way to kind of not have to commit to a yes or no, because the bigger your show gets, you will get more and more people that are going to ask you than you can actually have on your show at some point. And so instead of you needing to physically filter people every single time, what you can do is create a preset of filters that is on your application form. Now, one of the things where, let's talk about this can go wrong, or where you don't need an application form just quite yet, is going to be if your show isn't that big yet. And by big, I don't even mean huge download numbers. I really just mean consistency, your production, you're getting episodes out regularly, you are trying to book guests out weeks in advance or months in advance. So when you are now playing a bigger game in that sense, then you can begin to consider the application form. Now, there will be times where a guest application form is maybe not a good idea. And one of the main situations where this will come up is going to be when you are trying to land guests that have way bigger followings, way bigger audiences than you, and they are already dealing with an onslaught of paperwork and emails and admin and people requesting them, and it would be just one extra layer of friction, right? If you ask them to fill out this application, they may not get to it. It might just totally fall off their radar, and boom, you've lost the chance to maybe have that guest on. And so when you're trying to seize the moment and take advantage of an episode opportunity right then and there, you want to be strategic. I know I said earlier you want to turn it into a process, but this is one of those situations where you have to be aware enough to know, is this going to lose this opportunity or help me kind of, is it going to help me in some way? Now, aside from that, the other situations would be if you aren't really having guests on your show that often, you don't really need this. And if you actually just have an invite only process where you never consider people that pitch you. If you have an application form available, then people will want to fill it out. But if it doesn't exist, then it will encourage people to reach out in an email format, which might be better for you because you're getting less, but you might be getting really high quality requests that way. Now, even while considering all that, I would say in most situations, it is worth actually creating a guest application form, especially because remember, the idea is it's only supposed to be like 3-5 questions most. If you have one of these things that are like, 20 question form, people won't fill it out. It might drive more people away than you want. So you want to be quick to be able to fill out. And one of the things that this can help replace or enhance, if you want to do both, is going to be the pre-interview. So if you were planning on doing a pre-interview call with the person before you actually record with them, this can save you from that completely, because whatever you're going to talk about on the call, you can get that in a couple answers. The way that your potential guest answers them can give you a lot of insight. It can be a great initial screen. And then of course, if you still want to feel it out and you want to do a pre-interview with them, guess what? At least you have some more context going into the call about who this person is and what they're interested in talking about, which will make the rapport building and all that stuff on your pre-interview way smoother. Now let's talk about where you would build this. So if you have a website that's already available, you can create, for example, in Squarespace, a new form that would simply serve as the guest application form. Anytime somebody fills that out, Squarespace typically emails you and notifies you, and it's kind of something you can embed and build directly on your website. That can be helpful if there is a benefit to people going to your website and you just getting more eyeballs there in the first place. But let's say you don't have a website set up yet, or you don't want to go through that hassle. The next option would be using something like Notion Forms or using Google Forms, something super simple, because remember, this is only a couple questions. The other format that you might actually prefer is if you have a calendar booking link that you're using already. For example, I use TidyCal. If you're using Calendly or any other software, it works very similarly, where you can add questions so that in order to actually book the interview with you, people have to complete all of those questions. You can make them required. And so instead of just saying, oh, would there be anything that's helpful to know or any questions for me, you can actually make those fields be the questions, the screening questions that you wanted on. And so what this does is if somebody's not really interested, they won't take the time to fill it out. If they are interested, you can toggle on that this booking requires confirmation or approval. So even though people can go in and book the time that way, you can set up the expectation that you still need to approve it before that episode goes through. That can be good if you have kind of a lower filter where you're open to talking to more guests, you're open to just giving them that link and booking them, and you want to kind of speed up the process. But in many cases, it can be nice to have it be separate, whether it's in a Google form, a Notion doc, or on a web page. Because remember, you're using it as a tool so that you don't have to be on the phone or on Zoom more than you need to doing pre-interviews with unqualified people, and you're using it to quickly screen and qualify people who are a good fit, and you're using it as a diffuser for, not making it awkward for when you don't want to have a guest on or you're not sure yet and you still want to kind of get to know them maybe before making that decision. It can be a great place to point people to, at least gives them a fair chance, right? Make your case on what you want to talk about and why you think you'd be great for the show. It doesn't have to be positioned like that, but it gives them a chance to do so. And speaking of that, in your questions, try not to give off that kind of tone where you are really trying to disqualify the guest. Try to use it as a way to just get more info about them. You want it to feel inviting. You don't want the guest to be annoyed in any sort of way before they even have a chance to talk to you just from these questions. Use it as a chance to help your case. And so the types of questions that you might be asking are going to be things like, hey, have you been on a podcast before? If so, could you share a link to a recent podcast you've been on? Do you have stable internet connection and a place to record? Do you have headphones and a microphone and a webcam? Whatever information that you want to know that would make you feel a little more prepared and have more peace of mind, you can include those things there. A great opportunity that you could present in the form of a question is asking for title ideas for the episode that they would be featuring on. And that way they're forced to kind of package up all of their things that they want to talk about into 50 characters. And you can also see how good somebody is at that and how much info they give when, they give you those options. And then the other alternative is that you can ask for questions. So, hey, what questions are you ready to answer or that you're excited to answer? And if they give you a couple great questions, guess what? The research part is, 50% done because they've given you something that they're really confident on being able to answer. And so you can kind of begin to envision now what your episode would look like, what the clips would look like, the promo might look like, and then you make a more informed decision if this person is a good fit for coming on your show. Now, of course, as your show gets bigger and bigger and bigger, what was once a disadvantage of maybe including 10 or 20 questions in your guest application form will become a tool that you can use to your advantage. Because guess what? At that point, you're going to get hundreds of people a day maybe reaching out to you and wanting to be a guest. And so increasing the amount of questions that you have makes it so that, there's just less people who want to fill it out, or they'll drop off halfway. And you intentionally want to do that to repel the wrong people and attract the right guests. So I hope this was useful. Drop a comment if you have any questions. I'd love to hear from you, and make sure to check out the links in the description below. Book a free strategy call with me. I would love to chat about your show and help you out how I can. But I appreciate your time and you hanging out today, and I will see you on the next one.